Have you ever met someone who, well, maybe they weren't exactly the best looking person in the room, but somehow, just effortlessly, they completely drew everyone's attention?
Like, they weren't the loudest. They weren't desperately trying to impress anyone with these wild, grand stories, but people just gravitated toward them anyway. Now compare that totally effortless magnetism with the exact opposite. Think about someone who walks into a room just trying so desperately to look confident.
They talk way too much, they're constantly name-dropping their achievements, darting their eyes around just to see if people are actually paying attention to them. It's this frantic, nervous energy, right? And wild enough, the harder they try to be attractive, the less attractive they actually become. So what's going on here? Well, welcome to our explainer on the psychology of attraction. Because the big secret we're diving into today is that attraction isn't just about having a perfect face or a six-pack. It's actually a rapid psychological judgment. Your brain is constantly scanning people, asking, is this person actually confident? Can I trust them? So today, we're exploring the specific behaviors that naturally draw people in. No manipulation, no faking it, just pure psychology.
Let's start with Section 1, the attraction paradox.
The absolute wildest irony of attraction is this. Literally, the harder you try to be attractive, the less attractive you become. Just think about the mindset of insecurity. It sounds like, oh man, everyone here should really like me. It's an exhausting, frantic, internal monologue. You're constantly on edge, tweaking every little thing you do just to please the whole room. But real, genuine confidence, that operates on a totally different frequency. It sounds more like, you know what? Some people will like me, some won't, and I'll be okay either way. It's a complete and total paradigm shift.
Because when you walk into a room basically demanding that everyone likes you, well, that's really just insecurity wearing a costume. You know exactly what I mean. Have you ever talked to someone who literally spends the first 5 minutes of a conversation advertising their brand new car, their fancy job, or how much money they make? I mean, sure, technically they may be super successful, but really they're just signaling desperation. True confidence, it never actually feels the need to announce itself. The less you feel the need to prove, the more naturally magnetic you become.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, presence over performance.
Here's the thing. Confident people aren't putting on a performance. They're actually participating. We're talking about shifting away from the absolutely exhausting act of putting on a show, and instead just tapping into the magnetic power of simply being present in the moment. See, most people fall into this trap I like to call the bad conversation formula. It goes like this. Step 1, wait for the other person to stop talking. Step 2, tell your own story. Most of us completely fail at the simple art of listening because, let's be real, we aren't actually listening. We're just waiting for our turn to speak, queuing up our next clever little line in our head. So we've got to break that terrible formula. If someone tells you, hey, I've been training for my first marathon, please do not immediately hijack their story to talk about your own 5K run. Instead, just ask them, wow, what made you decide to do that? Just ask a genuinely good follow-up question. Make them feel heard. When someone really feels heard and understood, they feel important. And guess what? They instantly associate that incredible feeling directly with you. And your presence goes way beyond just the words you use. We all know eye contact communicates confidence, right? But hold on. There is a massive difference between comfortable eye contact, looking away occasionally, just letting the conversation breathe, and terrifying staring, where you lock eyes for 30 undisturbed seconds like a robot. Relaxed eye contact, dropping those tense shoulders, uncrossing your arms, all of that communicates a calm, totally unbothered presence before you even speak a single syllable. Confidence, simply put, looks calm. All right, let's move right along to Section 3, having your own life. If someone literally has no interests outside of dating or socializing, they can accidentally make relationships feel like their entire identity. And honestly, that's overwhelming. But someone with deep passions, whether that's their career, fitness, art, maybe travel, they have their own stories and their own goals, and that changes their entire energy. This is exactly why so much standard dating advice out there is just fundamentally wrong. Like artificially delaying your text messages to seem valuable or busy. That is just a manipulative game. Real confidence comes from actually having a life.
It means responding when you are genuinely available, because you're actually out there busy living. True value doesn't come from pretending to be unavailable. It comes from genuinely being focused on your own meaningful life.
Now look, while looks aren't everything, pretending that appearance doesn't matter at all is just unrealistic. But it really just boils down to foundational self-care habits. We're talking about getting enough sleep, exercising, basic skincare, wearing clothes that actually fit you, having good hygiene, taking care of your hair, and eating reasonably well. You absolutely do not need to look like a Hollywood actor. Basic grooming simply communicates one highly attractive message: I take care of myself. It really is that simple, and it's entirely within your control. Okay, let's dive a little deeper now into Section 4, the emotional core. Once you get past the neat clothes and the good eye contact, what actually makes someone stick around is how you make them feel. Having a playful, spontaneous sense of humor, especially one that never, ever puts anyone else down, makes people feel so incredibly comfortable around you. Seriously, making people feel safe enough to truly let their guard down and just laugh, that is pure charisma. But at the very center of all of that is emotional intelligence. That's the ability to handle criticism, rejection, and uncomfortable conversations without exploding or instantly getting defensive. Because relationships inevitably involve disagreement. And if you can't handle frustration, literally no amount of physical attractiveness is going to save that connection.
Just imagine two different people receiving some criticism. Person A immediately gets super defensive and shouts, "Hey, that's not my fault." But person B, they get curious. They don't panic. They just calmly say, "Interesting. Tell me more about that." Now, which one of those seems more emotionally secure? It's person B every single time. In the inevitable disagreements of life, the emotional security of person B is always going to outshine purely physical appearance. Being able to just sit and listen without exploding is an incredibly powerful form of attractiveness.
And that emotional maturity ties directly into the difference between kindness and people-pleasing. Guys, these are absolutely not the same thing. Kindness says, I respect you, but I can still say no. People-pleasing, on the other hand, says, I'll completely abandon my own needs just so you won't reject me. Clarifying this vital difference is just so crucial. Emotional maturity means you can be a generous person, but you still have firm boundaries. Genuinely attractive people do not desperately seek approval. They're kind, for sure, but they respect themselves enough to say no without having to get aggressive about it. Which finally brings us to Section 5, the real secret.
We've talked about all the external stuff: eye contact, listening, having hobbies, emotional intelligence. But honestly, all of that completely falls apart if you fall into the most exhausting trap of all, letting your self-esteem depend entirely on whether other people find you attractive. I want you to turn your focus inward for a second and really ask yourself, do I respect myself? Because if your confidence depends entirely on compliments, man, one single unanswered text can ruin your entire day, and that is just exhausting. Instead, you've got to build an internal source of validation. Are you proud of how you live? Are you actively becoming the person you want to be? When you build up that internal respect, the external opinions of everyone else, they become completely powerless.
And that leads us to the ultimate paradigm shift. Become attractive. Don't just try to look attractive. We have to stop making romantic attention the ultimate measurement of our worth in the world. The goal here is not to walk into a room and make everyone magically attracted to you. I mean, that's completely impossible anyway. The actual goal is to walk into a room and feel completely comfortable just being yourself. Some people are going to like you, some won't, and that is absolutely okay. I really want to leave you with this thought to wrap up our explainer today. Build a life that makes you feel alive, and let attraction become a byproduct of that life. Seriously, stop spending all your energy putting on a costume just to impress the room. Focus entirely on becoming someone you are genuinely, deeply proud to be. Because at the end of the day, the most undeniably attractive thing about you isn't your clothes, it's not your money, and it's not your face. It's simply the way you feel about yourself when nobody else is watching. So, what kind of life are you building for yourself today?